Here. All right, here we go.
Let's do it.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Trapper Goldsmith, host of the TeeRap Show, where we showcase elite athletes and sport individuals with their inspiring stories and rise to glory in their pursuit of everlasting greatness. Welcome to today's episode of our podcast, where we have the pleasure of speaking with Peter Coppi, former professional hockey player with an impressive career playing 5 years junior hockey in Ontario before playing 4 years university, then turning pro, playing down the Southern Hockey League. Peter has really left his mark on the game, but also embarking on a successful law career that we're going to get into today as well. So throughout this podcast, we'll dive into Peter's journey as a pro hockey player, discussing his earlier beginnings, the highs and lows of his career, and the lessons he learned along the way. We'll also get to know the man behind the player as Peter shares some powerful personal experiences and insights on life beyond the rink. So sit back, relax, and join us as we dive into the world of professional hockey with Peter Coppi. Pete, welcome, man.
Thanks, man. I'm happy to be here.
Let's talk some hockey, man. Looking back on the career, did you always know like the game was going to take you as far as it did, or did you have high expectations?
I mean, as any Canadian hockey player would, and kid growing up, I think your ultimate goal is to reach the highest level that you can. Obviously, my goal was always to make it to the big show, but I'm very happy with where I ended up and the people that I've met and the help I got along the way. Did I think I was going to play as long as I did? Probably not, with injuries and things that happened. But again, I've been extremely grateful for everything I've had growing up with hockey, and it's definitely been a grind. I've had some very low lows and some very high highs, but it's definitely been a hell of a ride, and it's been fun. It's definitely been fun. So.
That's good. I don't think you get to a professional level without going through some highs and lows. That's just sport, hey?
Definitely.
So you had a pretty long junior career, and then you went to university from there.
Yep.
What was the caliber of play, the level of play going from junior to university?
So I think that over time, the concept of going from junior to university or junior to the East Coast has kind of changed. When I was kind of going through it, I think there was that weird gap of, which way to go. And some people were saying, oh, you need to go to the East Coast if you want to continue pursuing professional hockey, or you want to go to school and then you're going to play your 5 years and that'll be it. So I think there was a weird gap and weird construct between the two. But, when I finished playing junior, I ended my junior career in Cornwall. So at the time, I was in kind of a weird spot where I was talking to, a couple of universities, but I was also talking to a couple of the East Coast teams. So I went to, a couple of the East Coast camps, and I was kind of flirting with the idea of going there instead of going to school. And I kind of got the understanding that because I wasn't on like a two-way deal where I was protected by contract, that I can literally be cut at any time. And with that kind of in the back of your mind, it's a little bit scary, because it's like, if you get cut, what do? You go through the system of the waivers, and you might get picked up and you might not, and all this and all that. So at the end of the day, I made the decision to go to school, and I have absolutely no regrets. I started off at Queen's for about 2.5 years, and I loved it. I met some great people there. I learned a lot about my own game, as well as what U Sports has to offer. Definitely a very underrated league. I think a lot of people look over it, but I can tell you from experience that is one of the best leagues I've played in. So
here's a question. You're seeing more and more, and especially with the WHL kind of promoting where every year you're in the dub, you get a year of education paid for. You're seeing more and more players go on to have university careers and get their degree and then turn pro after that and still have a successful pro career.
Yeah.
What do you think's attributing to that, Pete? Like, is it just guys are in better shape, or it's just they're realizing, hey, you know what, my career doesn't have to be over at 23, 24?
I honestly think it for me personally, a lot of the guys I've talked to, and I think it's life after hockey. I think because obviously hockey doesn't last forever. So I think now you're coming to the realization that, okay, I played, I played WHL, I've played OHL, I've played in the Quebec League, I've done this, I've done that. But it's like when you get to those final years of 2021, it's like, okay, well, where am I going after this? Because you can go play in the Southern Pro, you can go play in the East Coast, you can play in the A, but again, that's not going to last forever. It's not a career that's going to last you your entire life. So I think with a lot of guys now, the 4 or 5 year degree is perfect because you're going into another team, your spot's secured, you're meeting and you're meeting brothers that you're going to have for the rest of your life. And on top of that, you're bringing your school out to give them opportunities to win championships. Like you get to rep your school. That's why I love watching NCAA, is because, you know, those kids rep their school and they rep it proud, and it's great to see. And then after you get your degree and you get these opportunities to go play pro, and you play pro for however long you want, but then you come back and you have your degree, you have the opportunity to get into the work field of your choice. And honestly, that's what I did. And I owe a lot to that, to the guidance of my mother. My mother has been unbelievable my entire career. And, you know, her biggest thing was always education. You got to make sure you have an education. You got to make sure you have this and you have that. And as a kid, I never really listened because, you know, that's what every kid does. And they just
We're current deaf. Come on.
Yeah. So, you know, as I got older and I kind of wrapped my head around the idea that, okay, maybe I won't make it to the top level. So I pursued school and I was good enough, and I had the opportunity to play in the Southern Pro for a few years. And as soon as I was done, I ended up coming back and I got into my legal field of choice, and I couldn't be happier for that guidance and that she gave me and provided me, and, you know, the constant pushing of pointing me in the right direction. And it's been great. So I have no regrets, and I have no ill advice of going to school, because it's no detriment on your hockey career. If anything, it'll help you gain experience from these other kids that are coming from other leagues and other countries and other provinces. If you're learning from these guys, right? They have these experiences, they have these different gameplays, and it only helps you. It doesn't hurt you. So.
And you even talked about the caliber of play at a university level it's underrated. People don't realize, you know, how high a caliber that level of play is. So, Pete, how did your game personally change from going to juniors to 4 years university?
I mean, I realized
what were some big developments that happened for you as a player?
It was definitely a shorter season, so your body feels a little bit better playing youth sports, but I think it's just a lot of it's time management. I spent a lot of time kind of figuring out my day to day in terms of training and on the ice, and the extra work on top of school and all that. But I think for me, what changed in my career was kind of being a mentor for the kids that were coming in. You know, there's a lot of young kids that are coming into university, and they're coming right out of junior, they're coming right out of, you know, wherever, and it's still, the mindset's still all hockey, and that's great. Which, I mean, my mindset was all hockey too, but I think the aspect of my game that changed was trying to be a leader on the ice and a mentor in the room. You know, I molded my game, you know, around being that big forward that can go into the corner and battle my way out and score a goal, right? That was kind of what I did over my university career, and it ended up landing me a contract. So I think I had to adapt to the type of game that U Sports was, because, you know, like when you go into the OHL, you know what you're getting. You know what type of players are going to be in there. Same with the WHL, same with the Quebec League. Right. You know what type of players you're getting yourself into. But when you play U Sports, you're going against guys that come in from all over, WHL, NCAA, the OHL, junior. There's a variety of players. I worked day in and day out when I had time to get that extra work in to tweak aspects of my game that maybe I didn't really have before. And it definitely helped. We had somebody at York. Her name's actually quite big in the hockey community, Rachel Dory. She worked with New Jersey, she worked with Vancouver, and she helped me quite a bit. She saw my potential in my game, and her and another assistant coach we had who used to play for York took the time to get me that extra ice, and we worked on small aspects of my game, and it helped me quite a bit, and I was able to adapt and again help mentor the younger kids that you see coming up that have that aspiration to keep going to the next level and make a name for themselves in the school and on the team and in the league. And I was able to use that guidance to help them, right? There was a lot of kids that from when I played at York have now moved on to the East Coast League or the Southern Pro League, and it's good to see. I got a lot of friends that are still playing, and I love to see it. So it's definitely adaptation going to U Sports.
And knowing that, sport is such a small, it has a huge impact on our life. I owe everything I've accomplished to sport, huge impact. But when you look at the grand lifetime, it's a very small portion of your life that you actually play sports. So I think that's pretty powerful, knowing what going to university can do for you in your game. And so you got picked up at a university. Was your mindset like, okay, I'm going to play pro hockey and then I'll fall back on the education, or were you like, I'm going to try this for a little bit, but my big goal is going into law and that route?
So my ultimate goal has always been law school. I've always wanted to end up in the legal field and pursue that aspect of my life. When I got offered the contract, I think we just got eliminated from the playoffs that year. And, the coach called my coach and whatever, he called me in his office explaining it to me. And my first thought was, well, what's happening with my school? So I was in my last, I believe it was in my last year or two. And I wanted to make sure that I had everything in order because I didn't want to lose that hard work. So before I made any decision, I obviously sat down with my family and discussed the opportunity. And then I took the time to go to all my professors and my TAs and say, I have this once in a lifetime opportunity that I've been working for pretty much my whole life. I know it's not the big league, but it's definitely something that, I've worked for. And every single professor and every single TA was more than accommodating, and they were extremely excited. And it was great. I had the opportunity to go down to Alabama my first year, and I continued my schooling. I did it online. I was able to send all my work in, and I was still able to enjoy the life of being a pro hockey player. I was cool. On the ice in the morning. I was playing golf 3-4 times a week, played on the weekend, and submitted all my assignments on Sunday. So it was definitely, I wouldn't say it was something I was looking to fall back on. It was definitely something that I've always wanted to do. And again, my mother works in the legal field, and she was a big kind of shining light on that. I was able to kind of look over her shoulder my whole life and get the ins and outs of what the legal field is all about. And she still asks me to this day, "Are you sure you want to be a lawyer?" And I said 100%. And I've been through my own kind of stuff that's even exasperated that dream. Like I want to be that guy where, I got some buddies now that are still going through some stuff when we play together, and then I'm sitting there and I can't do anything to help them. Like I would love to be that guy where somebody comes to me and says, I need help with a contract, or I need help with representation, and I want to have that opportunity where I can do both, where I can be the legal representative and the agent at the same time, so I can get two sides of the coin and be able to help my friends and help young kids who maybe have a tough time coming up, especially in the GTA. Toronto's one of the harder communities to play hockey in, but I think that with the right direction, a lot of athletes can continue their career longer than what it was. So
Yeah, that's cool. And I know conversations you and I have had, previously, how passionate you are about helping. And I think that's why you and I really connected, was because my passion now for helping athletes on the financial side and post careers and all of that. Okay, so before we kind of jump into some of those challenges, I just want to ask, is that pretty common in the U Sports League? Like, do players all of a sudden really develop and blossom and then get cherry picked by pro teams?
Some do. We had, like, at York, there was a few kids these last couple of years that just blew the numbers up, and they've made it onto the East Coast League, and they've had a great career. Some of the guys I played with at York are still playing, and I see it all over, Instagram and Twitter, and I love to see it. These are guys that I played with for 2-3 years, and it's definitely a good thing to see. Is these guys come up and they played their 4 or 5 years, they grinded, and now they're playing professional hockey, and it's amazing to see. I'm happy for a lot of the guys I played with, and I wish them great long and healthy careers, because I know that once it's over, you kind of got that itch to keep playing. And I think that once you play pro and once you play college, you just become a great beer league player, and that's kind of what everyone's at now. So I think it's great. I think the U Sports and the programs that these universities are running are fantastic. I think that they're doing the right things for these players, and it's good to see that a lot of them are flourishing to continue and play professional hockey.
So do a lot of them do it the same way you did? They just move their schooling to online and they still finish their degree?
From what I know, majority of them do that. If not, they'll probably just push it to the side and then continue it during the summer. But usually what happens is you either finish it completely before you go, or you do it the last few months online, or you just finish it during the summer. There's at least at York, there's been a lot of opportunity for that, where they help their athletes with completing their degree. So
it's a long career for a Canadian coming up. You're playing minor hockey, you're coming up through the ranks. You're basically playing hockey since you're 4 or 5 years old.
Yeah.
And you went juniors, then you went university, then you turned pro. Pete, where did you find like the biggest challenges for you in your hockey career? At what level did those come for you?
For me, it came relatively early. From my experience and from what I've seen, and some people might agree, some people might not, there's a lot of politics in hockey, like more than kind of what people see on the outside. Like, if you don't play the game as long as certain people do, if you're not involved as some people are, you don't really see it. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and I kind of first experienced that setback and obstacle when I was 12, which is fairly young for
pretty early on.
Yeah, for a kid to kind of experience. And I'll be honest, like, it almost ended my entire career. Like, it was at the point where I'd get into the car and I would just burst out and just not want to, I just told my parents I don't want to play anymore. Like, this is not what I signed up for. This is not fun. Like, I was getting bashed on, my family and I were getting bashed online because I was bigger than everybody else, and they were accusing my parents of feeding me certain things or doing certain things to get me to the height that I was, or the capability that I was. And they saw it online, but I saw it in the dressing room, where I was being belittled by coaches, and I was sat on the bench for no reason, no explanation. And then when I got out there, because I was so big, they would say, well, you need to go out there and hit this guy and kill this guy and do this and do that. I ended up with a lot of penalty minutes, and I sat in the box for majority of the time. And we'd put our team down, and then I'd come to the bench and I would sit, because I was doing what my coach told me to do, and there was no winning. And it got to a point where I was uh, as I said, I got into the car and I just broke down, and I didn't want to play. I didn't want to show up to the rink. I didn't want to play, and I didn't want to do any of that because I was just tired of working so hard and trying to please the coaches that it just nothing was working. And um, it ended up, I ended up overcoming again with the guidance of my family. But if I didn't have them in my corner, I probably wouldn't have played much past 13, 14 years old because of what was happening behind the scenes. And some people blame the parents, some people blame the kid, but they don't know what happens in those dressing rooms. They don't know what happens on the bench. Like you're an outsider looking in, and it's definitely a mind game. And for being as young as I was, I don't think a 12-year-old needs to go through that mental setback, especially when they're playing a game that they don't know that they're going to pursue. Like you're still in those early years of,
you're just having fun at that point.
Yeah, you're having fun. Like I was playing with some of my best friends at the time, and they didn't know what was going on. Like they saw the way I was treated, but they didn't know what was happening with me in my own head. Right? They don't know what's happening at home when I go home, and I'm sitting there angry and frustrated and upset because I feel like I can't do anything right. And I think that's one really big aspect of hockey, specifically in Toronto, that needs to change. Like there's a maddening amount of politics in Toronto. And it's, if you got the most money, you can pay to play on a team. If you know enough people, you can be on that team. If your kid's bigger than everybody else, he can be on this team. But we had a kid, so I coached AA hockey this past year for my first time being an assistant coach with one of my best friends. He brought me on, we played ball hockey together, we coached lacrosse together, and he asked me, hey, why don't you come on the bench? Well, sure. So I'm on the bench, and we had one kid that, again, these kids are 12 years old. We had one kid that was playing in the OMHA, which is the east side of, there's two sides. There's the GTHL and then there's the OMHA. So he was coming from the other side, and the team that he was playing for wouldn't release him. We don't release him. We want him on our team. Maybe he'll change his mind. The Hockey Canada was not helping. They weren't giving him his release. They weren't doing this. They weren't doing that. And this poor kid, 12 years old, had to come to the rink every day. He was practiced. He put in the work just to find out he still can't play. Every week, day in and day out, can't play. You're not getting released. Can't play. You're not getting released. And this went on from September to maybe January. So that's a handful of months. It's this poor kid had to come to the rink every day, his friends, watch them play, and he's sitting in the stands. He can't help. And you can see he's frustrated, he's upset, and he's asking us, he goes, well, why can't I get my release? Why can't I play? Like, why are they doing this? And as a coach, what do you say to a 12-year-old like that? And you're like, well, I don't know, buddy. It's just kind of like, you got to wait and see. And for me, having to go through that as a 12-year-old, the stuff that I went through, it was upsetting. It was something I didn't want to see, because this kid, whether he was playing or not, had a big smile on his face coming to the rink and practicing. And it's something that needs to change. I think that it's a big problem. And
so for you personally, Peter, you talked about your parents kind of getting you through that time. My boys are 12, both play hockey. And what were some big things that your parents did? Because as a parent, I can imagine how frustrating that is. And what did they do personally for you to get you through that?
Well, my mom took legal action, so that was the one part of it. But
advantage of your mom being a lawyer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So she took legal action, but apart from that, she just kept pushing me. She kept saying, you're good enough to play, you're good enough to be here, we'll move you next year, and all that. And I fought back. I was frustrated, I was upset, and I just said I didn't want to do it anymore. And we got to the point where she just pulled me aside and brought me to other skates and allowed me to just fall in love with hockey again. Like I was going to, one-on-one sessions, just shooting on goalies. And, I went into camps to kind of get better with skating, and I did all this stuff, and I just fell in love with developing as a hockey player again. I didn't hate the game. I wasn't frustrated. And, after I left that team, it was like a breath of fresh air. I was able to kind of jump into a great organization, and I played with a couple guys that are playing in the NHL right now, and it was amazing. And I thank her every day for pushing me to overcome that adversity and that obstacle. And I realize now, being 28 years old, that not everything is going to come on a silver platter. Like you need to push through the obstacles and the adversity, because there are going to be people out there that are going to try to step on your head to get ahead of you. And there's going to be people out there that are, jealous of your success or jealous of your capabilities. And it's crazy what some people will do to try to diminish that. But I think with a healthy support system and people pushing you to get through those obstacles, I think that, one door closes and three more open. And I think that's kind of what happened with me. It was, that closed, and I was pushed to open a new door, and it was one of the best decisions I made. And, I'm grateful for those times, and it taught me a lot. And yeah, it sucked, but I think it taught me a lot as a person and a player. So
we talk a lot about that on the show, just how adversity shapes us.
Yeah.
I had, career-ending health issues, critical illness. I was diagnosed in my 20s and ended my professional career. But if that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be where I am today. And, you really look, the athletes, the successful people that grow from it really look as, that was the turning point. That was where, I really, really grew from that.
Yeah.
So we'll jump ahead a bit here, back to the pro league. When you were playing as a professional, is that when you really started to see, like, the good players and great players, and was there a big difference in level of play between players at that level?
Yeah, most definitely. But I think it even started when I was at school. Like when we would play UNB, for example, like that school's got some athletes, man. Holy, like that hockey program that they're running there, those are some of the best players I've seen play. And they had amazing careers from what I've heard past. They went from UNB right to the AHL, which is, it's a big jump, and it was crazy. But definitely in the SPHL, I played with, some of my buddies here that, one guy I played with came from UFT, and he's one of the top scorers in the league right now in the SPHL. I had another buddy come from Halifax. He's 20 years old, and he's one of the better defensemen on his team, and he's 21, and it's like it's crazy, right? He's an amazing hockey player. He's an amazing person, and all these guys that I've kept friends with, like they're very good hockey players. And that league, again, is very underrated. I think there's certain misconceptions about that league, but being a part of it, there are some good hockey players there. Like there are some very good hockey players there. And most of the top players in the league always make the jump to the East Coast. Like one guy I played with in Birmingham, and then we played together again in Indiana. He is a good friend of mine, and he always had that adversity of not getting up to the coast in his early years. And last year he made the jump, and he's stuck there ever since. And he's been killing it. He's been doing really well. And sometimes you just got to pay your dues, and then eventually it'll happen. And a lot of these players in the SPHL do that. They pay their dues, they play 3-4 years, and then out of nowhere they get that call to jump up, and they make it, and they stay there, and it's a fruitful career for them.
So what do you see, Pete, as the big difference? What do you see as the difference between good and great players?
Honestly, it's a very cliche answer, but just the work. You put in the work, you'll get the answer. Like there's guys that like that my friend that I just mentioned there, he's 20 years old, 21 years old. And when I was with him, there wasn't a moment that kid wasn't doing something. He was up early. He was always one of the first ones to the rink. Him and I would always be in there kind of just shooting shit and talking and whatever. And then we'd practice he'd hop on the bike and do whatever to warm up. And then we'd have an hour and a half practice and he'd come off and he'd be on the bike again doing more work. And then an hour later, he's in the gym doing more work. And he put in that work and he's young and he's doing great things where he's playing right now. He got, because of that work he put in, he ended up getting a tryout in the East Coast and, he stuck around for quite a bit, got sent back down. But again, that's because, he's 21 years old. He's got a lot to develop and he's doing amazing. And he's a perfect example of put your work in because he works, man. He has been an animal inside and outside the gym. Everybody loves him. He's a great teammate. And that goes a long way with coaches, right? And when you get that call from an East Coast team, it's like, okay, how is this kid? Well, he's great in the room. He puts in the work off the ice.
Right.
He puts in the work on the ice and, he's reliable and it goes a long way. Right. So
your path has changed now. Now we're post hockey career. Kind of talk about your journey now and where you're at after hockey.
So right now I'm working at a law firm downtown with some great people. They're all outside the office here putting in their hours and it's been great. They've welcomed me, they've helped me as much as I can, but as much as they can with questions and stuff that I've had jumping into kind of the legal field. But it's always been something I've wanted to do. And learning from the lawyer I work with now has been amazing. We've connected so well. He's been a great mentor to me so far and a great friend. And he's been guiding me in the legal field and what I want to do with my own legal career when I get there. And we were talking this morning about, I'd love to work with him and continue with this firm one day. And it's been a heck of an opportunity. And I love where I work. I love the industry. I think that we're doing great things here. Our ultimate goal is to, help people. And that's what we do. We have a great work environment and I've been grateful for the opportunity and it's just invigorated me to continue. It's given me that fire to continue with my legal career and work in the law field, because working alongside the people that I do, it's been amazing since day one. So
what do you think are some similarities in playing professional sports and practicing law?
Patience, that's for sure. There's definitely putting in the work, same thing. Like the amount of hours I see our lawyers put in is crazy. Like they put in 14, 15, 16-hour days, and it's all because they're trying to do better for their client and do better for our firm. And they come in the office and they're working and they get up, they go home and they're still working. It's like it's nonstop. They put in the work. And I think that's kind of a big similarity between sports and the legal field specifically is you need to put in that work. You need to network yourself. You need to be able to have relationships with a number of people, and you need to be able to work with them in a way that provides benefits for both of you. And I think that's a big similarity between the two. And I know that without a good team, your firm's not going to do well. Right. Yeah. And our Toronto office here has a fantastic team. There's a handful of us here and we're doing great things, and we're going to be hopefully expanding and going to continue to take over Toronto. And I think that it's just going to continue. It's just going to grow. And it's been it's been great seeing the similarities and the transition from hockey to the legal field. I think it's a lot more similar than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And it's been a great transition, and I'm excited to continue.
So are you still competitive? How do you kind of feed that competitive desire that you have as an athlete?
Well, I mean, if you talk to my friends and family and whatever, I play in 14 different leagues, but I played ball hockey for 2 or 3 different teams. I coach lacrosse. I play men's league ice hockey for one team, and then I have 2 or 3 others that call me, and then I play softball with my buddy during the summer. So it's nonstop. I do it.
Still pretty active in sport.
I try to keep busy as much as I can, but yeah, I definitely miss it, playing professionally and competitively, but I think kind of where I am now in my life, I'm just excited to be on the other side of it and hopefully make a change in a very politically corrupt kind of community down here in Toronto. And I'm excited to hopefully be that change.
Good, man. I love it. Yeah, I love your passion you have behind it. Last thing I want to wrap up here. What advice would you give to other athletes who are considering a transition into a legal career? How can they best kind of prepare themselves for challenges that might arise?
I think I wouldn't say don't sell yourself short. Just because you don't have that legal experience prior to jumping into the field. I don't think it's a bad thing. I like when I worked at my first firm, I didn't have the legal experience prior to that. I had my honors degree and I had professional hockey, but I think that once you get your foot in the door of somebody giving you that opportunity, take full advantage of it. Network yourself, work hard, make those relationships. So when the time comes that you need to make a transition or jump into a higher position, you're able to network yourself and promote yourself and say, I was able to do this, this, and that. And that's kind of what I did when I transitioned into my role now. I was able to say that I worked hand in hand with a lawyer at my previous firm, and he gave me the guidance of certain things, and I made that transition here. And now the lawyer I'm working with now is giving me even further guidance and mentorship. And it's all a stepping stone to kind of get to where you want to be. And I think that you should not sell yourself short of anything. Like, anybody can do anything. You put the work in, you put your mind to it, and it's an easier transition than you think. It's definitely frightening and nerve-wracking, and I think the biggest word for me was different. I went from waking up and going on the ice every day to waking up and having a cup of coffee and walking to work. So it's
big difference.
It's definitely different. And it's nice though. You walk around and you meet all these different people, and you get to talk about stuff that everyone's passionate about. And I think people who find that transition and they find their right path and their right setting, I think are going to flourish. So don't sell yourself short, don't settle, and just put in the work. So
love it. Yeah. Pete, awesome, man. I appreciate your time this morning. I really want to commend you on a very successful hockey career. You had a large window of playing and a lot of experience, and appreciate your time jumping on the show and sharing some of that insight with us today. I know I'll definitely, if I'm ever looking for a lawyer, you'll be my first one to call up. But I know we'll most certainly have partnerships down the road and helping athletes as much as we can. I love that, man. So it's been a blast with you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you reaching out and connecting. I've had a blast being on here. I think you're doing great work, and I'm excited to see where our relationship goes and connections we can make and the help we can give. So thanks again. Appreciate it.
Right on, man. We'll jump off live here and wrap up.